You're listening to an El Seminario production, a multi-generational, family-owned media company, capturing conversation that reflects our communities since 1989. Whether we answer your questions or inspire new ones, at El Seminario, we speak your language. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to We Speak Your Language, where real stories inspire real conversations. I am your host, Vivian Reyes, and today we are wrapping up our final episode of our Breaking the Ice series. It's an honor to welcome our guest, Vicky Lee Garza, a licensed clinical social worker and public health professional, a dear friend, a fierce advocate for culturally grounded mental health care. Vicky, I am thrilled to have you with us for this powerful closing conversation. Before we dive in, I'd love to check in with you. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? What is your heart feeling? How is your heart feeling today?
It's been good. I'm really excited to talk about mental health or just, honestly, anything that talks about how care for the Latino community comes into play is my jam. So I'm really excited to talk with you today.
I'm glad to hear that. How have you been taking care of yourself lately? What's self-care been looking like for you these days?
It depends on the day. And I think lately there have been days that I've known and figured out that I need some time for myself, because I do a lot of work with people and individuals. I think taking the time just to take a little break and also to know when to take that time is really important. So I've been doing that a little bit more, making sure I have time to feel good by myself and to decompress when I need to.
What are some signs that lets you know you need to decompress?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for me, it comes up when I can't identify what's making me feel what I'm feeling. Because there are sometimes the feelings just happen and I don't know where they're coming from. But if I'm feeling it, then I know I have to do something different. And I think those are the times where it's important to notice your feelings versus what's causing the feelings and addressing that instead of thinking about, well, I'm going to get rid of the thing that's making me sad or making me upset. Just focusing on the feeling and getting through that, I think, is important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
That's a good point. Honestly, that's really interesting that I think I will start paying attention to more often. Like when you feel some type of way, but you don't know what, and it's just you're like in mood, and you're like, okay, something's wrong. ¿Qué hago? I need to pay attention to this,
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
It's not always like a lo mejor crying, llorando, or like stress, or it's just that meh feeling.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not fun to have to feel a certain way, but it's also not fun to have to go backwards and figure out why you feel a way. And so if you can just do the work on the feeling, sometimes that's a little more helpful.
A ver, Vicky, cuéntanos. What led you to the field of health and human services? Was there a specific moment or a story that inspired you?
I think what happens with a lot of us that get into work like this and wanting to work with people and be helping people is the individual experience that we have for ourselves. I come from a big family and I've had to see, I've lived the struggle that I think a lot of people end up living. And so seeing that, seeing what my family had been through and just the different things that have come up over time really, as I got older, made me really grateful for the people who were there to help my family through those hard times. And some of those were professionals. And I think that just became more apparent as I got older. Y pues, like, me hizo pensar, like, if I can make things easier for other people that had other families that had the same types of experiences my family had. I was like, I can do that. I always knew I wanted to help people and bridge things and make things easier for families who looked like mine and did things like mine and had experiences like mine. And so finding the way to do that was just the what I wanted to do, and I was able to do it. And so I think that's where I was like, I need to channel the things that I do well into a space that I can help people out.
Mhm. ¿Y cómo te sientes? How do you feel now that you're there?
Um, it's it feels so natural. It
Mhm.
feels like this is where I was supposed to be, and I didn't know that it was even an option for the longest time. It feels like all of the skills and all of the things that I did well growing up or that I wanted to participate in growing up were the natural progression para llegar aquí and be here for the people in my community, for be here as that avenue, that bridge, whatever it is. And I think, I always tell people and tell patients, tell clients, tell my friends, we have to take a lot of the experiences we had and be able to apply them to where we're at now. And I think that's just a really great tool to be able to think of things, to know that the things that were hard in the past, you overcame them and can use them now as a tool to do better. It feels so natural to be able to use my experiences to help other people with their experiences,
Ujú.
if that
Qué
makes sense.
bonito, ya, no, qué bonito poder ver y reflejar en lo
Mhm,
que ya has logrado. Everything you've already accomplished that maybe at some point it felt really hard to accomplish, to get through,
mhm,
especially como nosotras Latinas. Only we know what we've been through.
mhm,
And so it's nice to see where you are today.
mhm,
I know you've worked really hard and you had to go through things, but now you're in that position where you are giving back to the community. You are
mhm,
that bridge. You
mhm,
didn't create it. You are that bridge. You
mhm.
know, you became that tool
Yeah.
that you're the medium. You're the bridge from
Mhm,
our communities to the resources that they
mhm.
need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Throughout this series, we've
Mhm,
heard powerful stories of resilience, hardship, and healing.
mhm.
From your perspective, what are some of the most pressing mental health challenges our communities are currently facing?
Oof, that's a big one. I think there's a lot that can go into it. There's, I think specifically for our community, our bilingual community, our bicultural community, our immigrant family community, our intergenerational community. There's so many layers to it and so many intersections. And I think identifying that we're so layered in that is so difficult, and there are these pieces that become difficult to manage and I think this kind of goes into how I was saying earlier. We try to identify all of the things that are wrong instead of like kind of handling it and dealing with it. And for us Latinos or folks who grew up, um, in monolingual homes or intergenerational homes, there's this really hard concept of being able to speak your truth sometimes and share where those feelings are coming from.
Mhm.
And so I think, or from what I've seen and how I have heard people react, clients and anybody who you talk to, it's hard to even vocalize exactly what's going on sometimes and how we're feeling. And there's jokes on the internet of like, oh, I'm trying to think of the best one, like, um, I wish I could think of them right now, but like really like how much Latinos don't consider anxiety and depression so
Oh,
prevalent to us. And I mean, this is silly, but there was a whole like Saturday Night Live, like with Pedro Pascal and Bad Bunny, about a skit on it, like, no, depression's not a thing. I don't believe in that. And But it's so true. Like these things do affect us. I think the big thing that we end up having a hard time with is realizing that these are these things affect us in different ways. They don't manifest for Latinos or for people of color in the same way they manifest for white people, straight up. And I think that's where there is the challenge of being able to realize for Latinos that these things exist for us and these challenges are here and persist. And as we know, and as we've seen it when we have traumas or cosas que le pasan a generación del pasado, those things trickle down to us. And so some of those things become issues for children and our children's children, especially because we're not taught to talk about how we feel. We're not taught to talk about things, we're such hard workers that we just dig in and we throw down and get it done. And we don't necessarily tackle and work on those issues.
You reminded me of like those memes that I have seen also that, oh, as Latinos creemos we create en la llorona, el cucuy, like
Yes, that's it.
from like a very young age, like we're taught like don't do this or go to sleep before el cucuy comes. And
Yep.
like we believe in everything else except in mental health,
Anxiety
in
and mental health.
therapy, anxiety. Like those are made up things.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
there's a lot of research that obviously it's not made up.
Yeah.
Pero according to our communities that have a hard time accepting this reality and que it's we're making things up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've
No,
definitely
yeah.
those
No,
memes.
yeah. That's the one I was thinking of, mis papás creen en el cucú y la llorona, but not for therapy.
Not therapy.
Not
That's
therapy.
made up. That's
No.
all in your
Yeah.
that's all in your head. To get out of your head, go wash some dishes, go vete a limpiar, to get
Oh,
things
you're
out of
bored
your
with the
mind.
limpiar. Yeah.
Ponte a limpiar,
Yeah.
se te olvida, and
Yeah. And
oh
you'll be
my
fine.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. Hay que distraerte. Yeah. And that's what I hear a lot from patients is, finding the distractions to get away from the feelings. But again, the feelings don't go away. They're there, they persist, and something's going to happen, whether that come out as, irritation, anger, violence, substance use. Like sometimes they find the outlets that we don't always necessarily aren't the best for us all the time.
So I feel like we need to change that. We need to continue to have these conversations and bring them home. I know it's so hard. It's so hard and challenging, especially if you have family members that are so close-minded into this to this area. But it's like this is the way I like to imagine it. Todos tenemos un saquito, like a baggage with us, and that bag carries a lot of our experiences that we've lived, and good and bad. So like todos cargamos con un peso and it's okay to try to alleviate some of that, some of those burdens, some of those feelings, some of those, So I think it's an important message to remind all of us, everyone, that it's okay. Like you do have un costalito in your bag that's probably getting heavier and heavier. So imagínense el costalito del chavo, you throw it behind you, Make sure that you're still able to walk because if you're like struggling to walk because you have something behind you, then it's important we do something about it.
Exactly.
Kind of going more detail in that as we're technically talking about it right now. We in this series we also touched on the stigma that surrounds asking for help in our Latino community.
Absolutely.
How do you support or encourage people to move past that fear or silence when reaching out to support?
That's another big one. I think, and I think it comes down to a couple of things in there's the cultural impact in the sense of, we are a group of people that are very community focused. And I think sometimes when we have our struggles or when we have these issues, we feel like we end up having to do it by ourselves for some reason. And whether that's an ideal from here in the United States, where the focus is very independent and the focus is very much on doing things on your own, or the ideal is of if you're not doing it by yourself, then you're not really figuring it out.
Mhm.
You know, that could be part of it too. And I think that that even provides a disconnect intergenerationally again, you know, where our parents did things one way and then we as kids growing up here do things another way, you know, and our parents might be like the, you know, we don't air out the dirty laundry, it's, this is our business and we don't share it. And we, it gets hard. We end up not wanting to be, or the other thing I hear all the time, like, I don't want to be a burden to my family. I don't want to be a burden to the people around me. And how much that struggle of trying to maintain strength, putting your head down, just getting the work done, creates more of a barrier. Maybe you are a little like differently successful, but it creates a barrier from you and other people emotionally too. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into that stigma. Um, and then we can look at this globally and societally. When we don't see something happening, if we don't have, a disability that's visible, it's harder to give it the acknowledgement of what it is. And because so much of the mental health battles are internal and they're not always visible until sometimes it's too late, or sometimes you're really far into it, that becomes a struggle of being able to go up against it or combat against it. And I think just again, intergenerationally, there are situations that come up with, la época del pasado and now, and how we all handle things. And it just gets different, Yeah. And we don't take the time to teach each other. Our parents don't have the time always because they're working, they're doing their thing, they're living the hustle to be able to teach us how to communicate differently or how to process our feelings different. And so that definitely it starts to show after a while, and we start seeing it in our younger and younger kiddos as we all grow up.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's a really good point that I think it's a good reminder. Like I definitely see what you're saying because through various conversations and dentro de nuestras familias, you can see how like instead of listening or just actively listening to our family member as they're sharing what they're going through, there tends to be a lot of how like you basically talked about like minimizing effort or minimizing feelings.
Yeah.
You reminded me of when we're younger and then we're like, oh, back in my day, or like we didn't have this. I
Hacíamos las cosas
did
así.
have you seen talking about memes? Have you seen those memes that are like how my mom or how my dad say, according to them, how they got to school?
Yeah.
They go through like a whole like
Yeah.
a whole route, like las
Uh-huh.
montañas, the hills, the water, the everything to get
Yeah.
to school.
Yeah.
Which is that's the thing. It's not like we shouldn't be minimizing anyone's effort or anyone's feelings because every feeling is valid. Only every individual knows what they've experienced that resulted in how they're feeling. Um, so I think we could do a lot better amongst ourselves in our community to stop pointing fingers, stop minimizing feelings. Like no one's feelings is more like that shouldn't be validated over others because of the hardship.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I definitely see that, and I think we
Yeah.
can get better.
Yeah. And I think generationally, if we discuss and confront and not confront in a bad way, but confront and just talk about, like so much of the sacrifices that our families make for each other are to better our lives. Why would not we not want to enrich that by being able to talk to each other about how we feel and figure out how to make each other feel better or help each other feel better. I can't do everything for you, but I can support you this way. Así te apoyo, like te doy esto, voy a cocinar so that you can figure this out. It takes off some of that pressure and some of that hardship. So, like, hay que cuidarnos también,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important.
Yeah, y el apoyo no tiene que ser like algo extravagante, like going
Mm-mm,
on, like
mm-mm.
it could just be simply as listening to someone,
Mhm.
listening to your cousin, your tia,
Asking,
your prima, like
just asking.
asking questions to help them sacar lo que ellos
Mhm. Yeah, a
están
desahogar.
sintiendo.
Mhm,
Desahogarse.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
definitely. Okay, shifting gears a little here.
mhm,
It's no secret that behavioral health resources can be difficult to access, like we
mhm,
talked about in the beginning, for
mhm,
many in our Latino communities.
mhm,
As a result, we often avoid seeking them out, seeing them as out of reach or even a
mhm,
luxury to obtain
mhm.
them. Could you share what the process may look like for someone seeking perhaps therapy or counseling?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we think that it's, I guess here's an example that I can relate it to. Todos platicamos y decimos, tengo que completar mi ejercicio, because y tengo que ir al gimnasio para completar eso. When in reality, you can go outside and walk. You can stand in your living room and just move a little bit more, and that counts as ejercicio. The whole point of working out or moving your body is just to move your body more than you normally would. And that's going to always help you more than not. And it's the same thing for your mind and your emotions and your heart. Um, you know, you don't have to go very far to look for this assistance. There is assistance everywhere. It can start with your family. It can start with, being the people you're comfortable with, at least so you have a place to start and feel comfortable with talking. And then moving into places like talking to your doctor about how you're feeling. You don't have to know the reason why. You don't have to know what's happening, but you can just identify that something is not going okay, like we talked about, and talk to your doctor about what they might know is available to get close to you, or to get close to for more discussion and get you routed in the right space. A lot of doctors' offices that offer services, or just overall services, have access to behavioral health or mental health providers already in there if you're already working with them. So it's really nice way to do it all in one place. And it just takes asking sometimes and making sure that that's what you're able to access.
Mhm.
Um, but there are a lot of resources in a lot of different places that are either no cost, low cost. They'll work with you on what prices you can pay. Um, and and I know insurance is a beast, but working, if you do have insurance, working with that, because you are paying them good money, make sure you get your benefits for
Make
that
your
too.
money's worth.
Exactly, make it work for you. Um, it's hard, and some of it, but some of it's really difficult, but there are people out there who are able to help figure that out too, and it's finding those right people and organizations. But some of it is just starting with, the people you're comfortable with and moving from there to the doctor. The doctor's a good place to start so you can ask for those other resources. And they'll have people who will know how to look for that.
Hmm. I would also add to that I feel like even as me, right? And
Mhm,
I'm sure I'm not alone in this. Sometimes we want a starting line and a finishing line,
mhm,
you know?
mhm,
So we feel some type of way and we just want to do something and get rid of it and just
mhm,
get to the finish line and feel better.
mhm,
And I think we should remind ourselves que la vida is a roller coaster.
mhm.
Life is a roller coaster. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't heard one person like, where's the life? ¿Dónde está el libro de la vida? Where's the
Uh-huh.
book? Because I feel like
Yeah.
in that case, we all need one in our home,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so when we're feeling some type of way, it's like, be graceful, be patient with yourself. porque there is no finish line when it comes to our healing journey.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like va a iniciar y luego se va a ver así,
Mhm.
así, o
Y
sea,
para atrás.
todo
Yeah.
para atrás. You know,
Uh-huh.
you're over here, and now the next day or a couple
Yeah.
hours ya estás aquí otra
Yeah.
vez.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
En serio. Yeah. No, and I think that really takes me back to one of the questions you asked earlier too, like what are some of the things that get in the way? I think as we do finally, like if we do finally get to a point that we're able to work with a mental health provider or a behavioral health provider, and they offer us, for example, one of the things I've seen that gets in the way is like the discussion about medications. That comes up a lot. And, no, ellos nomás me querían dar, ¿sabe qué? De medicamento y que sabe qué. I get it. It's scary. And having to, someone tell you you might need a little bit of extra help is hard to hear. But knowing that that's just a tool for you to be able to make space to get to the next spot. It might help you avanzar en donde estás to where you need to get to. And I think that's one of the concerns that comes up for our people of like, that concern about they just want to give me medicine. They just want to do this. And even when people go to take medicine, finally, if you're not feeling better right away, then it's not helping. And a lot of the mental health medications do take time to work. And I think that's really important to remember. It's hard to it's hard because, esperamos que sea como like Tylenol. Me duele la cabeza. Okay, me tomo un Tylenol, me siento mejor. And that's it. But a lot of these medications take that time to build up and take time to end up feeling better, or feeling like you're getting extra help. So I think going back to like a little bit of that too is, focusing on that it's going to take the time to get there. Give yourself the break to actually try and move forward with some of this. And again, accessing the right resources through your doctor or through the community, knowing where to ask, finding, good people, good community resources is going to be so important so that you can get connected to the right organization that's going to work best for you.
there's a lot of different ways to take care of ourselves, and whatever worked for that person may or may not work for you.
Mhm.
You know, los resultados de ese medicamento may benefit you. You like it might
Mhm.
be better for you. Like it's just
Mhm.
listening to your body, paying
Mhm.
attention to yourselves, and
Mhm.
how you said, like, pon de tu parte también. Like,
Mhm.
you know, like it's like how we were talking earlier, how we want instant results, pero depending on what we're dealing with, no es, it's not that easy.
Mhm. Yeah. No,
Um,
absolutely.
I like to share some resources that may be helpful, keeping in
Mhm.
mind that not everyone has the opportunity to access mental health services through the quote professional route,
Mhm.
especially without insurance, like you
Mhm.
mentioned. Fortunately, there are organizations doing vital work to help
Mhm.
individuals connect with resources that support both emotional and our overall well-being.
Mhm.
For example, there's 211 Colorado.
Mhm.
211 is a confidential and multilingual service connecting people to vital resources across the state of Colorado, more or so like a resource hub
Mhm.
for navigators.
Mhm.
You can find information about many resources in their local community,
Mhm.
including behavioral health resources. According to their website, they have evaluation and counseling resources, general support groups, addiction treatment, mental health evaluation and resources, crisis
Mhm.
counseling hotlines, loss
Mhm.
support groups, lifestyle transition support groups. So,
Mhm.
if you haven't heard about this, it's basically like a resource hub that
Mhm.
anybody can go into and navigate, like a directory of many
Mhm.
resources, and one of them
Mhm.
being resources
Mental
for
health.
behavioral health resources.
Mhm.
Um, you can go online and just type 211colorado.org or
Mhm.
dial 211 or 866-760-6489. So it's a great way, it's a great starting point
Mhm.
in navigating recursos, services, or
Mhm.
resources of whatever you're looking for
Yeah, en general, yeah.
in general.
Mhm.
Another resource is Wella for Health. aka Vuela por Salud. Their primary objective is to engage the Latino community through strategic partnerships that build leadership, promote public health, and foster economic, environmental, and social well-being.
Yeah.
This organization has a strong family-centered approach, offering programs and services that seem truly age-friendly. Love, which is wonderful to see. I've witnessed firsthand how community-driven and deeply
Oh
engaged
yeah.
they are.
Mhm.
For those interested, they are currently located in 3532 Franklin Street, Suites JG, Denver, Colorado 80205. Me siento como una comercial right now. Y su número de teléfono es 1-888-747-2583.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just wanted to throw on some resources in there
Yeah. I
for.
have one more too.
Go ahead, yeah, please.
Yeah, the one I was thinking of that's really good in general for general mental health, and it's very specific to mental health, is 988 or the 988. It's the main mental health line that you can use anywhere. A lot of people end up using it, or it's for crisis services. They have specific services that they can connect you to here in Colorado too. And what's cool is that you can call it, you can text it, and then they also have a chat online that you can do that because sometimes it's just easier to type it or text it than to say it, especially if things are going on or you find yourself in a crisis. And I think it's a really great service that more people should know about. Siempre reconocemos el 911, that we can call policía, but sometimes the policía is not the best resource in that moment when you're already scared or when you're not feeling good. You don't want to hear all the alarmas por todos lados, and this is a nice, calmer way of figuring things out with people who are trained to figure it out on the phone with you. So it's a nice general resource that's available to be able to call, and it's like 911 for your brain. It's like how I describe it to people, but it's 988, 988. Yeah.
Yeah, yo no sabía. I actually didn't know. See?
Mhm.
So, para empezar our journey,
Mhm.
there's that professional like route, and then like sometimes when we're going through something, I feel like we block ourselves, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of us are so good at helping others in crisis and
Oh
help
yeah.
or not in crisis. Like we're so
Mhm.
good in helping others in their challenging situations.
Mhm.
But when it comes to us, like we lock ourselves and like, what do I do? How do I get out
Mhm.
of this? Like,
Mhm.
but like how we just mentioned right now, there's a lot of help and it's
Mhm.
just looking for it, or if we're struggling to do that search, let's ask someone for help.
Yes, yeah. I think that's the most important part is knowing that you don't have to do it by yourself and knowing that, and that's why I said, from the beginning, even if it's just reaching out to a friend who will understand or a teacher will understand and can get you connected to the next step. That's a really good place to start. And
Mm-hmm.
it starts making you comfortable to talk to someone else who might be a stranger or might not know your whole life. And while we don't not well, we haven't always experienced all of the same situations. We've all experienced the same feelings, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Those feelings still come up. I've been mad, you've been mad, and we know how that feels. I've been sad and you've been sad, and we know how that feels. It might feel different and we might have different reasons, but al fin de todo, we all know what those feelings are like too. And I think challenging that is more important than, like, oh, Vivian no me entiende because she's never experienced this situation the way I did.
Mm-hmm.
You've also felt, saddened or upset or really happy about certain things, and that's okay. And I think we need to focus on that sometimes too, on like we're here to take each other or care of each other's hearts, not necessarily the reasons, or like not make that better the reasons why we're feeling a certain way.
Me, me imaginé esto mientras estabas hablando de que we're here to take how nice it is to take care of each other's hearts. You know,
Mhm.
okay, Vicky, aquí está tu corazón, me lo
Mhm.
acabas de dar en mis manos.
Mhm.
No sé qué hacer. Tienes una cortadita aquí, no sé, por qué la tienes ahí, pero déjame, ponerle una curita,
Mhm.
este, no sé, darte un pedazón de mi corazoncito y poner,
Mhm.
algo de mi
Mhm.
parte para
Mhm.
poder tratar de ayudarte.
Mhm.
Nomás ayudarnos mutuamente. No tenemos que
Mhm.
entender todo, como tú lo dijiste perfectamente, um, we might not understand the experiences,
Mhm.
or exactly what they're going through, but
Mhm.
we've experienced the feelings.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, we can go on and on about this. Um, before, wow, that was really fast.
Yeah.
Before we go,
Mhm.
what message would you like to share with our Latino communities who may be feeling overwhelmed,
Mhm.
isolated, or uncertain about where to begin their healing journey?
I think knowing que, una cosa que siempre les digo a mis pacientes, no eres el primero ni el último. You're not going to be the first person to experience these feelings or the last person to experience these feelings. And sometimes knowing that is very helpful, that you're not by yourself, because we tend to feel so alone when we're in bad situations. And knowing that it's not just you, that you are, again, not the first, not the last. It stinks and it's not fun, but sometimes knowing that is helpful. Um, and and just asking anybody who it is. Sometimes I think as we mature and as like our generation gets older and starts taking care of our parents differently, and we're all learning together. Our parents are learning from us and we learn from them. Our kids are going to see how that all interprets too. And I think just know that, our hearts are all in the right place, even though it doesn't always feel like it, even though it feels like someone's dismissing you. I don't think it's ever intentional. I think there are situations that have been like, we can move past this. And I think knowing that you can always reach out to someone is important. No matter how big or small it feels. And if it's not someone in your family or one of your friends, call and use the resources that are available to you. There's always the next level.
Yeah. Vicky, con todo corazón, gracias. This conversation was exactly what we needed to close out Breaking the Ice. Thank you to Caring for Denver for making this project a reality. We couldn't have done this without you. And thank you to everyone who is listening. This conversation continues with you. Please, 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 please take care of yourselves and
Yes.
look after one another.
Yes.
And let's keep breaking the ice together.
Yeah.
Gracias.